The delusion. Consistent, you're learning and listening, and then contemplation and reflection helps you to remove the delusion. Delusion lives in the mind, and the moment you remove the delusion, your life changes completely at that very moment. You may be in anxiety, it is gone. You may be in anger, it is gone. You may be reacting, it is gone. Instantly it goes away, but provided understanding is clear. There is a good metaphor to understand it. The gems. Gems represent the alluring objects and experiences of the world. One gem in the world. Oh, I'm, I want to sleep more. Another, the wealth is the gem, fame is the gem, pleasure is the gem, relationship is the gem, accomplishment are the gems. They sparkle and grab our attention. It doesn't mean that we should not have it. Without having it, how can we survive physically? What the master is saying, what is immediate to my sense organs? I have to be careful. I have to be aware. I have to be attentive. What is immediate to my senses and perception? The cause is deeper inside. The way the rosary, you put all the beads are there and the thread is hidden. We know intellectually what glitters is not gold. But we are so much hypnotized, mesmerized, because the thread is inside, hidden is the reality. So delusion and the reality. Delusion and the reality. We suffer a delusion because when we become infatuated with the glittering gems, we seek self-growth, we seek peace, we seek happiness in the external things which are impermanent. I have to simply remember this and become aware of it. We create identity with them. We ignore the thread that gives them the meaning and the stability. So the Bhaja Govindam simply means I have to move from the delusion to dispassion. So dispassion is not a that you have to control yourself. I have to see what is. I have not to see what should be. What should be is associated with anything in the world. Oh, I will marry, then I will live a happy life. I will divorce, then I will live a happy life. What should be? We have to change the entire thought pattern. Why? You change the entire thought pattern, and there is an inner awareness. Or you can say, I have to shift my focus and realize the true identity is with the eternal thread of the real self, not the temporary gems of the matter. Having said that, again, let your mind go to the delusion. That delusion is simply ignorance, incorrect knowledge. It is like seeing the world through a distorted lenses where we mistake illusion for the real. Bhaja Govind. And then find out how does delusion operate. Delusion hides the real essence of the people and the objects from our mind. It projects a false impression that feel real but had no substance. Delusion appears as a mistaken perception, false assumption, emotional dependence on the things that are constantly changing. I have to become aware what is constantly changing. Then check your mind. Is the mind moving? It is creating some false assumption through the intellectualization process. That is what makes you aware and move you to the state of dispassion. Until we realize the real self, the delusion will continue in one way or the other way. So I have to check, is there any emotional dependence? Did I create any false assumption? Do I have a mistaken perception? This is one way to look at it. Or am I into anxiety or duality or a conflict? Am I extremely tired? So check. I have not done any physical activity. It is the mental and the emotional factor. How can I do my professional activities? You see that, I have to remain busy. No, you have to simply become aware. It is not an activity. It is not an activity. You are in a classroom and you have a mistaken identity that I will give a talk and everyone will appreciate. That is a mistaken identity. Brandy. Anything and everything. I have to simply become aware. I have to change it to a state of dispassion. If I drive this car, people will say, wow. Nobody says, wow. They are busy in their delusion. You are busy in your delusion. Stephen was saying, Stephen is not there. Oh, Stephen is here. No, I was not feeling good, so I went for a haircut. Now I feel good. I remember everything. So it means I have such kind of a beard, you are not listening to me. That is another delusion. It's awareness from moment to moment. Now we all are seekers. So you see that the moment you find anxiety, duality, conflict, some struggle inside, so I have to explore what is causing me the delusion. Just become aware. It is the gem outside that is glittering, and the moment you become aware of inside, that anxiety is gone. It may happen in relationship, it may happen in talking. Bhaja Govindam, this text helps us to recognize those false assumptions, conditioned beliefs through the self-inquiry. Patanjali, might have heard, a lot of people have heard Patanjali Yoga Sutra. He says it is a lack of awareness of what is real. Lack of awareness. It is because of the delusion. So how the delusion arises? It arises due to ignorance. Our mind is covered in impurities. My master used to say that my mind is covered in impurities like selfishness and the ego. This distorts how we see the world. Then the projection starts. So when you start the meditation in the state of a dispassion, it becomes successful. Not every day the mind lives in dispassion, but the day when the mind lives in the dispassion, the meditation is successful. It is not your practice. It is the state of the mind deeper inside which lives in dispassion, which makes your meditation successful. So when I explore the anxiety about the impermanent things, clinging to toxic relationship, addiction to many kinds of pleasure, blaming others creates a delusion, complete delusion. Self-hatred. I'm a perfectionist. I cannot control everything. You cannot control everything. Make it very clear. And how this delusion, the cycle of delusion continues. Because of our past conditioning, likes and dislikes, biases, escapism. How can we can overcome the delusion? By the self-inquiry, followed by the practice. That is why we have a Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. So I inquire. I do the inquiry into my mind. Why I'm feeling anxious? So you have a delusion and a dispassion. Any sense of emotional dependence is outside, is there. Conditioning is there. And the moment you recognize that conditioning, it is gone. You feel so easy. Otherwise, this delusion results into unnecessary sufferings in everyday life. One thing we have to understand between the delusion and the dispassion. As long as, by example, I'm just making an example, the same example you have heard a couple of times. When I see the clay pot is different from the clay, and my focus is on the clay pot, I'm in delusion. And this, you can take this metaphor with reference to the body, with reference to the mind, with reference to what you believe is real. If your focus is on the waves, not on the water, you are in a delusion. What is the essence? The clay is the essence. Water is the essence. My master used to say in a different way that see that if you remove the clay pot and the waves do not exist. Or if you are settled in the clay, you are settled in the water, the waves and the clay pot do not disturb you. Tell me, if A is in B, can B be in the A? I'm taking you to a purely mathematical equation. Clay pot is in the clay. Is the clay in the clay pot? Answer is no. clay, I'm talking of the consciousness, a state of dispassion. Why it is not there? Why it is not there? That consciousness is independent of the clay. Say, for example, clay is independent of the clay pot, but the clay pot depends on the clay. Consciousness is independent of the anxiety, stress, duality, conflict. But when consciousness moves through the mind, it creates the shape of an anxiety, duality, and a conflict. A is in B, but B, consciousness is independent. So what happens in delusion? I attach myself. That is what the false assumption is. We are going deeper. You have to think in that way. Consciousness is an essence with the name and the form of the body. We forget to see the essence. You forget to see the thread in the rosary. Forgetfulness is delusion. That is where we fall into delusion, and that is what the master says. So that is what the master is pointing out, the foolishness. What fuels the continuation of delusion? Non-thinking, not consistent with the practice. We cannot claim that, today I have done the practice, now the delusion is gone. It will take a different shape. Unless we reach to a state of point of no return. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Moodh Mate, Sanprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi, Rakshati Dukrunna Karne. Simply intellectual exercise will not do. Intellectual, I have done, I have understood it, now I have to apply here and now. Let me enter into the practice, return with the awareness. Now start living into that awareness. Suddenly what happens, I look at my honey and my mind goes into the past impression. There and then I have to remove that delusion. It will happen again and again. It is not one day affair. So the message here is that instead of getting lost in intellectual pursuit, no, we need to understand intellectually. But I have to become aware of what is behind the name in the form. What is behind my anxiety? What is behind my false assumption? I have to remember that there is an entity, there is a real self behind that anxiety, behind that duality, behind. But if you don't remember, then the very thought process takes over. Your anxiety continues. Your stress continues. Your duality continues. Your selfishness continues. Your ego continues. That is how I made a difference between a fool who lacks a discernment. A mad person is totally irrational. And a wise demonstrate, let me separate it. What is right and good, what is not. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. Another way to understand it, just think, I was just talking to yesterday. He said, no, tell me something about the mind. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to get upset, but I get upset. So remember, the mind is a receiving station, responding station constantly. Mind is receiving. It receives the input and the stimuli from outside, and it also receives the inputs from inside in the form of a thought, feeling, sensation, false assumption. So two things. Mind is a receiving station. It receives. But before it responds, what happens? There is an interpretation. Who does the interpretation of the inputs that I receive? I make a face like this, and then, now you are receiving something. You're receiving something. Now, what is your interpretation? So, based on your interpretation, you respond. Are you getting it? Say yes. So, one is the receiving. Mind is constantly receiving from outside, from inside. One thing. Before it responds, there is a center of interpretation in the mind. But then there is the fourth thing. How many things are there? Only four things. Don't get upset. So, again, I'm saying receiving, responding, the way I respond. And third is the interpretation. What is the fourth? How my mind interprets depends on many factors. What are those factors? I don't like you. That factor, now I meet you. My interpretation will be different. I love you. My interpretation will be different. You are the same. Do you see what I said? Receiving, responding, there is an interpretation center. And behind that interpretation center, there are many factors. I just explained you likes. That is why we say, get rid of these likes and dislikes. That is why we say, get rid of the blame and complaint. But there are many other factors. Biological drive. What do you mean? You feel hungry, biological drive. Interpretation in the mind. Go to the kitchen. You need not to go to the washroom. Interpretation. You see? You see? Oh, I've just become aware of it. Oh, this is what is happening. Thirsty. You go, go to the kitchen. Feeling sleepy. You see interpretation. Biological drive. Go to the bedroom. So like this, we have around, maybe you can say 10 or 12 factors. Biological drive, our habit, idea, our past impressions, the way we lived in our childhood. Those habit impressions are there. They give a different interpretation. And based on that interpretation, we respond. Are you getting it? So before you give any interpretation, introduce this passion. Let majority of the things will go habitually. Let it go. I feel hungry, I'll go and eat the food. Simple. Thirsty, take the water. Go to the restroom. So interpretation is constantly happening. But if the factors are present, which factors are present? The likes and dislikes, blame and the complaint, fear. Those factors give a colored interpretation, and that colored interpretation on which my response is based, and that is what the delusion is. You can give the interpretation looking at this face. He even doesn't shave, how dirty it looks. So there comes the state of a dispassion for what you are here. Do you see that? Are you clear? Responding. Even this response is a habitual response. Talking, obviously coming. But if there is a point of awareness inside, you know that factors which are responsible for delusion can be removed instantly by awareness, and you are happy. So initially, before that, I talked about there is a mind and the memory, intellect and the I thought. So their functioning also comes here. But simply remember receiving, responding, interpretation, and how the mind gives the interpretation depends on many factors. Biological drive, my habit, my past experiences, uh, my past false assumption, likes, strong likes and dislikes, they are already present in a potential form in the mind. I told you, you dislike a person and who comes in front of you, interpretation is already done. Now it's a question of response. Do you see that? You see something glitters. Ah, this wealth will give me a status and a recognition. Now interpretation is done. Your mind will constantly try to overpower the entire environment and the conditions outside to prove that you're right. You are already working in delusion and you get into anxiety. You say you want to prove that you are smart, and the others say, then what? Then what? You are rusting. Don't you see I am beautiful? Then what? Then what? You know, then what? They may not say then what, but they make you feel then what? I'm also smart. Selfishness, ego. This is what the delusion is. I laid the foundation of this because I want to go deeper into the other verses of this text. So just think of this today, this couple of days. Just think, oh, receiving, responding, interpretation, and which factor has given the interpretation and prepared my mind to respond. Prepare my mind to respond. Close your eyes. Eyes are closed and being comfortable and carefree. And that is where we are going to in the practice. Being comfortable. I said being comfortable. You receive the input. Why don't you apply it here and now? You receive the input. What I said, being comfortable and carefree. Yes, I received it. So respond before responding, interpretation center heard this instruction, and in that instruction, if there is no like and dislike, if you are not attached to the body, my friend, my friends, you are already comfortable and relaxed. I use a different expression for it that we have done We have understood it clearly, being comfortable and carefree. I used that expression before. So that's why I do not explain it. But the fact is that because of the practice, you are instantly aware what it means by being comfortable, carefree. Interpretation is done by an awareness, and you are there. And that is happening. I believe so. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Listening the mantra, instantly your interpretation is that, oh, I have to expand my mind. I have to leave that selfishness, the limitedness. That is the message in this mantra. Or you pick up any explanation. You see the interpretation is very important. Let everyone be happy. Happiness is my essential nature. Happiness is the essential nature of every being on this earth. So, this is a common denominator of every living species. You start working from that one. I may have a different shape, size, color, ethnicity, gender, age, but what is the common point is the happiness. So once you have that state of awareness, so what you are looking in other person, you will try to bring that state of the happiness in others. Why? That keeps you in the state of happiness. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. May there be peace for all. Peace for all. The same interpretation which is happening at a certain level in your mind. Peace is the essential nature of everything. And I become aware. I can give you a metaphor like this. Electric current is the common denominator. Whether your fan is running, the computer is running, your phone is running. You see, we don't become aware of that factor. Why? Outside everything glitters. Why it glitters? Because of the false assumption. I believe you are getting it. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. May there be completeness in all, completeness in all. This is a very subtle message, interpretation. It demands a clarity. I am complete in myself, I am whole in myself, which strips me from the sense of incompleteness, and that again keeps my mind within, that keeps my mind in dispassion, in awareness. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Auspiciousness, invoking, invoking a feeling of goodness and kindness to all or to yourself. Anxiety is there, invoke that feeling. Stress is there, invoke that feeling. Tiredness is there, invoke that feeling to yourself. Ego is there, invoke that feeling and see what happens. That is the message. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Existence is one common denominator, and we are all the part of that existence, or you can say we are all present in that one existence, including the aunt. This is the interpretation in your mind, makes your mind soft, kind. It helps you to raise your awareness. And it is happening. Never forget this receiving, responding interpretation, factors inside, behind that interpretation is the whole functioning of the mind. Now, because those impressions and many factors remain present deeper inside the mind, we have to remove that. And that is where the breathing comes. So, looking deep inside the forehead, in the space, pick a point, drop Om Shanti, body remain in the state of steadiness, and you start breathing from the rib cage. Pay attention if the breath is moving equally through both the nostrils. Chest breathing, inhale, expand your ribs, contract when you exhale. Gentle breathing, you are enjoying breathing. If the mind is enjoying the breathing, you see the interpretation. Oh, and if the mind is enjoying the breathing, you have a right interpretation. So, what happens? You won't find any kind of resistance in the breathing. Because of the interpretation, wrong interpretation, we find the resistance, and we know, no, I cannot do it for 5 minutes or 6 minutes. I know you can do it even much more than that. The way I believe in myself, I believe in you. You all can do it. But because of the wrong interpretation in the beginning, that is why we only did for a couple of minutes. Continue breathing, experience the changes, become aware of any resistance and endure it, maintaining the steadiness in the body. Om Shanti continues. You see that lot of things continues, and you are aware of everything. That is going to help you a great deal. It brings a great transformation in our life. You will experience that. No resistance. And I link that resistance with my interpretation of the mind. Why? Because of the habit. Why? Because of the false assumption. So the master says, oh, you have a wrong interpretation, false assumption, endure it. So when you endure it, you recognize, oh, one day you recognize, oh, it is possible. I can do it. and stop, do nothing, experience the changes, awareness of the flow of the breath, and just enjoying that state. Body is already in the state of stillness. You may feel a lot of tingling, vision in the colors. Let it continue. So now you are aware of what is happening. What is this? You are aware of what is happening deep inside your mind in terms of your experiences. You are bringing all the unconscious material at the conscious level so you can treat them in a right manner. And that is the crux of the transformation. Looking inside again in the forehead, in the space, Om Shanti, and start breathing from the belly. It's a longer breath. You inhale, the belly expands. You exhale, the belly squeezes. You are able to maintain the stillness in the body. You may experience the changes in the sensation. And if there is any resistance, you are able to not counter the resistance, you are able to endure it. How? By giving a right interpretation. Continue breathing. Also, check if the breathing through both the nostrils are equal. You will discover, as we have been doing it regularly, your interpretation of the mind, reminding that my breath will be the same through both the nostrils. It will happen. The mind is totally aware of squeezing and expansion of the belly, the flow of the breath, stillness in the body. You see that the mind is acquiring a new way of interpretation. Very subtle. I made it very in a very simple way today. Continue. And if you find the flow of both the nostrils are equal, the noisy breath becomes noiseless. And stop this, do nothing. You are in a happening moment. You're aware of the breath, the flow of the nostrils, experiences, the changes. The more you are aware, you are registering these impressions in your mind. So it will result into a greater endurance. And that is why I'm still keeping the breathing part into this practice. Let the time come, we'll get rid of that also. Now, again, looking deep inside the forehead and Om Shanti, body is steady. Start breathing both from the belly and the rib cage. They inflate during inhalation, they deflate during exhalation. Um, Through the noise of the breath, you can make out that you are breathing both from the belly and the rib cage, my friends. Continue. Long, deep in the hissing breath, you may notice the flow of the nostrils are almost equal. And if you're doing the practice regularly, you will discover that it becomes equal. Hello. Long, deep in the hissing breath. And stop it. Instead, you start breathing deep, silent, and slow, moving the mind from the top of center of the head to the tailbone, singing mentally Om Shanti. And while exhaling, the mind moves from the tailbone to the top center of the head. So now see, there are two ways of doing the practice. That is what I call it a nyasa. So when you are simply doing these practices, you will start feeling those sensations along the spine. That is one way of doing it. Other way is doing that we deepen the practice of the nyasa. So what is going to happen? We will discover the flow of the breath becomes equal, even by this simple practice. Deep silent slow breathing and moving the mind along the spine from the center, top of the head to the tailbone, from the tailbone to the top of the head. But this takes very long time. Maybe if you are doing it regularly for half an hour, for a couple of years, then we reach to that state. So that is why we have added the three types of the breathing. But every step has its own importance. Shanti. Shanti. And now leave this breath also. Move the mind inside the cave of your heart, looking the triangle pointing upward, sinking your own Shanti side of a triangle and movement of the mind from clockwise to anti-clockwise. And when you experience, you see that now you have taken over the practice by yourself. So when you find a sink at that moment, move the mind, push the mind inside the triangle, deep inside the cave of your heart, singing Om Shanti. And it is settled there. You find a kind of self absorption. It may be possible that we may experience as if we are falling deep inside the well, deep inside the heart. So there are many ways this uh, mind reflects its experiences. You have taken over the practice. Check it. Are you sure? Now, leave this step also Om Shanti on the 16 segments of your finger. So, what is the point that we should remember? It's the mind's eye, it's the mind's ear, it's the mind's tongue, it's the mind's touch. It is the mind's. So, we break the limitations caused by the sense organ. That is one of the major factors which helps us to transform the mind and enter into a higher awareness. You will also discover some distractions or a total absorption. So you're also aware of the flow of the breath. If the flow of the breath remains equal, it is very difficult for the mind to get distracted. Stillness, flow of the breath, shanti, sensations, visions, they continue. Any resistance you endure and continue. Do nothing and just be aware of the state of awareness you are in. That does not depend on our body, mind, intellect, ego, thought. So if that state continues throughout the day, think of it, what will happen? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both your palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms, know your experiences. Bring the hands down We'll share our experiences. If you have any question, yes, I'll try to answer. How are you, Stephen?
Good. Thank you very much. Great lesson. Completely makes sense. I always like that you break things down into pieces to make it very easy to understand. It led me into my meditation that was about observation and awareness, and that was the focus, and for me, and I found it to be interesting because it was almost this immediate body temperature change from the moment you started chanting the Salvation, and I just started to get cold, and when checking my body, it was interesting because it was on the surface of my body, and inside I felt warm, and it it made me become attracted to being inside the body. So I forgot all about the fact that
Yeah.
I was cold. So I found that to be interesting. I also noticed that usually I don't see a lot. I don't see anything until except for a couple of things that pop in every now and then that just become very vivid. Today, it seemed as if everything was in a gray scale to me, and there was nothing there. But all of a sudden, there was, you know, streaks of blue light that were swirling around within my meditation. And as we got further and further into the different breathing, the light changed to a white light instead of blue, and I just observed it, and it went on its way, and whatnot. I found it interesting going to the Nyasa today that it was this expansive above the crown and below the tailbone, and outside my body, and it was crazy because I could see the breath going from top to bottom and extending past the body, and I found it to be interesting. Um, and then the going into the triangle and the cave of the heart, um, the light was there, and it turned to golden. It was a golden light. And then when you went to the japa, I don't even think I got through one finger, because the one finger, the light turned back to a white light, but I felt being drawn back into my heart center. And I didn't fight it. And when I went back there, it was now this battle between golden light and white light. And I stayed in the heart center for the rest of the meditation. So it was great. I'm very calm. Thank you.
Beautiful. It's crazy to be in meditation, as you rightly said, rather than being crazy outside. When we are crazy outside, obviously it has to do with the delusion. Beautiful explanation of each step, but one point that I want to make it, so you have to be aware of it. He said that the moment the mantra started and his mind got absorbed. So now check it. What is the sign of the progress? Anywhere, or you know the mantra, or you repeat the mantra, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. You simply switch on to that awareness. When? Anytime, anywhere. And if that happens, what a beautiful thing it would be in our life. How are you, David and Jerry?
Hi, thank you very much. Good morning. Yeah, so the lesson was really impactful to me. It's just that interpretation. Once you hear something, the immediate reaction is to react quickly based on experience or what have you. So the mind, working on the mind to focus on reality versus past perceptions or whatever is, very impactful. So thank you for that. The meditation was, the only word I can come up with was absorbed, and the breathing was extremely easy, extremely proficient. And I remember going through the various stages of the meditation, but I can just remember being just absorbed, and thoughts or no nothing impacting that absorbedness. I was just in peace.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And you said, rightly, just you see what is happening to my mind. I'm based on the interpretation, the past memories, I'm explaining it. Am I aware of it? When you share your experiences, I'm responding based on the interpretation, and behind the interpretation, what is the factor is the knowledge factor is there. Knowledge plus an experience. So that is coming in the form of a response. So if we are aware of that, we know how to respond and where to respond in what way. Beautiful. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good, thank you. Very peaceful. I think I may have had a smile. I felt like there was just this lift. And two words came to mind during the session and the meditation, and I feel like they go hand in hand, that friendliness as well as disregard.
Yeah.
So that we have that with ourselves and with every situation. And they go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah. They go. That is what your mind has given an interpretation. So once I have a firm interpretation in the mind, I'm ready to respond the similar way. And that changes. That is what is the meaning of living in a moment. So we are trying to understand through every possible way. Beautiful. How are you, Brandy?
Morning, I'm good, thank you. My meditation was really absorbed. It was so absorbed that when I got to the japa, I couldn't even find the points on my fingertips. So I just dropped Shanti
Yep.
out there. And it was interesting how it just kind of went through my body, and I don't know.
So
Just kept going with it.
Beautiful. When we see that all the fingers dissolved or resolved or disappears, and you continued with the Om Shanti, so you were able to maintain that awareness. Even that is okay. That is better, that we are totally absorbed into that. We do not stick mechanically to any step. So that experience has come today. This is really good. Beautiful. How are you, Dennis?
I'm fine, thank you. The meditation was calm, peaceful, and very comfortable. One thing that is different, just before the japa, I lost my hands.
Good. Yeah.
Lost there was no experience, nothing. Like there's no hands at all. So I had to follow the experience from the shoulders down to find the hands and fingertips, and eventually I did find them. So yeah.
Eventually. Yeah, obviously, once you return from the meditation, we return to this body, so we become aware. That's a quite interesting, and we will talk about it when we start our journey of the Gita. So you see that we are not able to see our emotion, but we feel it internally. So it is a subtler layer, subtler sense organs have a subtler experiences. So that is how we see that we lost all the fingers. But that does not mean that we have lost the fingers. So it's basically mind has moved from the gross to the subtler layer. And that is quite very interesting and very good. How are you, Terry? Where are you?
I'm here. I was losing audio about 1% of the time. So I just
I didn't speak for a lot of time.
but I know because my computer gave me a message. I was
Okay.
having network So I don't know which one was which in that case, but so I just went with it, and that's it. I don't have any particular.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. Calmness is already there, and it's better that you don't have to say anything. Even that is also better. The mind has calmed down. How are you, Vaibhav?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, sir. So mind was absorbed, was calm. It's like that I don't have to control anything. I am already in control. I'm in control. So it
Hmm.
was calm, peaceful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really good. When the delusion dissolves, we recognize that there is a self-control. So again, you can give the interpretation through receiving, responding interpretation, and those factors are not putting me into that situation. And when that factor is not putting me into that situation, we can definitely. Yes, very good. So how are you, Ashok?
Thank you, sir. Meditation was very pleasant and quiet and peaceful.
Oh, quiet and peaceful. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So keep on doing the practice regularly, and then we will meet next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Namaste, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.